The Lantern is brought to you by Innovation Economy Banking at JP Morgan.
This is Matt from MGMT Boston on another episode of The Lantern. Special guest today, Will Lehmann, the general partner of Step Function VC, here to talk about the work he does, what's going on in Boston this fall as it relates to him and sort of his ecosystem, and hear about what he's learned. So Will, let's jump into it.
Matt, thanks so much for having me on this. Love MGMT Boston.
Step Function VC.
Yeah, everything you're doing for the ecosystem. Step Function has one sole reason for existence. I want to back the best technical founders building the next generation of category-defining infrastructure software companies on the East Coast and in Europe. And
Excellent.
Special soft spot for anyone who's building in Boston.
Now, this fall, you're obviously doing a lot.
Yeah.
What are some of the highlights that you want to tell the community?
For sure. Always looking to meet founders, founder curious, anyone who's at all interested in building something and wants to leave the mark on the world and the ecosystem here. Also very involved in getting my new blog off the ground in layman's terms. Please check that out. But really just looking to demystify the world of venture to people who are less familiar with it and also to explain technical concepts in simple terms.
For anyone that wants to get involved specifically, are there events, spaces that you do host any of that?
Yeah, so always looking to pull together events. Just last week was part of a CISO dinner that came together in the ecosystem here, and always looking to bring together the best kind of technical founders, builders, operators, investors in the scene here.
Great. And I'm sure there will be more to come there, so be on the lookout. Follow Will on LinkedIn. Next is the space that you invest in.
Yeah.
Step Function focuses on sort of the infrastructure level of the software layer.
Yeah.
What are some things to know about that generally and locally?
Yeah, generally, look, it's developer tools, data infra, AI infra, cybersecurity, monitoring, observability tend to be the big buckets of categories that I focus on. Boston is super rich for that. There's a lot happening in the ecosystem here and some great companies, both private and public, that have been built in Boston. I think the Boston research scene is criminally underrated and underhyped. Last week was part of an awesome event that pulled together a lot of researchers from MIT and Harvard and also Northeastern just down the road here, meeting with a lot of interesting people who are building in those areas.
Great. And you've had an investment career for years. This is obviously your first general partnership where you're working as an emerging manager to grow your practice. What are some of the things you've learned, through that time that you would pass on to members of the community, people interested in getting into investing, or even just people thinking about building startups generally?
Yeah, for sure. For founders, I think it's really important to have investors who are really well aligned for the stage you're at, for the domain you're building in, and resonate with the long-term vision of the company that you want to go build. I think that's super important. For anyone who's early on in their operating career, I would encourage you to find founders who you think can create the next kind of local mafia.
Right.
It's going to be kind of sporting off a bunch of new and interesting talent coming off of that. For investors, look, I think it's really important to have your own convictions and where you want to spend time and what's important, and don't just be chasing hype.
Absolutely. And last but not least, how can we in the community help you? How can the Boston startup ecosystem help Step Function grow?
The Boston ecosystem is welcoming with open arms, and I truly cherish that. If you're technical, you're about to start something, you've just started something, please get in touch. I'd love to get to know you.
This is Will from Step Function, Matt from MGMT Boston. Thanks for having us.
This episode of The Lantern is brought to you by Innovation Economy Banking at JP Morgan. With JP Morgan's guidance, your startup can go from growing pains to growing without limits. With tech that powers your growth and bankers across the globe to help you disrupt every market, you can go from seed to IPO and beyond. JP Morgan, let's build your future together.